I was in the National Guard.
The United States Army.
I was in the United States Air Force.
I served in the United States Air Force within the security police section of the Air Force.
Army.
U.S. Marine Corps.
I served in the Marine Corps.
In the Army National Guard.
I served in the Army National Guard.
I served in the United States Army.
United States Air Force.
Army.
Army.
I served in the United States Air Force.
United States Marine Corps.
From 92 to 1998.
I served from August 10th, 1972 to August 9th, 1974.
I served from May of 1987 to May of 1991.
I served in the Air Force between 1985 and 1989.
1965 to 68.
69 to 75. 69 to 71 active duty. The last 4 was reserve.
So I commissioned in 2004 at the Naval Academy, and I served until 2012.
I joined in 2007, and I'm presently still serving. So I've been in 16 years in February.
I served from 2001 up until 2010.
I enlisted in September of 71 and was discharged in September of 75.
February 1969 to February 1971.
70 to 72.
1985 to 1991.
From February of 1972 to February of 1975.
I didn't have any deployments. The only thing I went through was in 1998, you may remember the Halloween snowstorm that happened in Lincoln. We were called up for active duty to help with the cleanup and help assist Lincoln in that disaster that happened.
I was stateside.
My deployments were, well, we had one deployment that I was involved with, and that was in Panama. And that was during the buildup of the American forces in Panama prior to the operation to remove Manuel Noriega as the military leader of Panama.
Thailand.
Overseas, I was 7 months in Vietnam and 5 months on Okinawa.
I deployed twice to Iraq, once in 2006 it would have been for 7 months-ish, and then again in 2008, 2009.
I was deployed to Iraq in 2010 and 11, and I've also deployed, we've done a hurricane mission. I think it was Gustav that we went to Louisiana for.
I did deployment to Iraq in 04 and 05.
I was deployed to Balad, Iraq for all of 2007.
Well, went to basic training, which was Lackland in San Antonio, then to Wichita Falls, Shepherd Air Force Base, and then the next 3.5 years I was at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada.
I was inducted in Omaha, and then we were flown to Fort Ord, California, where I had basic training and advanced infantry training from February to July. In July, I had 15 days leave at home, and I was deployed to Vietnam for a year from July 1969 to July 1970. And then after that, I went 6 months to Fort Carson, Colorado. And then I ETS'd out of Fort Carson, Colorado in February of 1971.
Vietnam.
I was deployed at Marine Corps Air Station, Yuma, Arizona.
Being a veteran, I guess for me, just that opportunity that if called upon, being able to serve my country. I'm a little different. I never had to go and serve in a war. I look at these veterans that we have across our nation and how honored I am to be part of that group. That those guys went and did some amazing things. Those are the heroes and what I think of when I think of a veteran.
Well, I was glad I served my country. When I hear the Star Spangled Banner, it just makes me very proud that I'm a United States citizen.
To be a veteran, Means taking an everyday person like myself. I was nothing ordinary. You take an ordinary person and you give them skills that can be utilized.
Probably saved my life, but yeah, proud of it.
The biggest meaning for me is that we have all, whether we served in peacetime like I did, or those who have served in deployed locations or in war, we sacrificed everything that we knew growing up in order to be part of a bigger cause. And any veteran, regardless of their age and what conflict that they served in, or if they didn't serve in a conflict, every veteran gets to look at another veteran and understand, oh yeah, I know what they've been through.
It means that I felt I had enough interest in Americans, and I was able to go and serve. I didn't have immediate family to think about, other than my parents and my siblings.
For me, being a veteran is really upholding a standard, right? Just because we are no longer actively serving, do we still reflect well on our service, and do we reflect well on all the veterans that have come before us? You know, our models were the generation of World War II and Vietnam, so really upholding that higher standard.
I think being a veteran just means, fighting for the freedoms that America has and the world we live in today. And also supporting those that fought in the great early wars. That was a big deal.
Being a veteran means to me that, in everything we do in this life, we have to make commitments and prioritize things. And so serving in the military is one of those things where, I think it's important to commit to freedom for everybody.
Back when I enlisted, we were during the draft year, so I basically had a number 47 in the lottery, so which I would have had to go. And so I enlisted in the Air Force instead of going into the Army or Marines. And I guess it's just that the country asked us to serve, so we went and did it, whether we really wanted to or not. And I guess in theory we protected our freedom, even though I wasn't overseas.
Well, when I was younger, it didn't mean a lot to me. When I got back from Vietnam, I was just wanting to get back with my life, and so it hasn't really been. And then I started going to the Nebraska Vietnam Veterans Reunion. I went to just about all. We've had 37 reunions from 1985 until just now. One of the few states that have kept the reunions going. We finally got to walk them home, whatever. But I guess it was kind of late coming, but we did get it, so I have to be thankful for that.
To be a veteran is nowadays to be part of a unique club in a lot of ways, because we don't have a draft. So, we have the few, the proud, the Marines. We have the few, the proud, the veterans, and of course I'm a female veteran, so I'm even a little more unique, but I believe every veteran we owe every veteran a debt of thanks, because when they were called, they answered the call. And as we celebrate this Veteran Days, I would just like to give my heartfelt thank for every man and woman who have served in the armed service, whether in peacetime or war. Thank you.
Well, when I went in, they had a draft. So you could enlist or get drafted. Well, I enlisted in the Marine Corps. And I guess after going through basic, I was really proud to be a Marine because of all the things you had to do in the Marine Corps. It was pretty tough. It's not like being overseas or anything like that. But, you just have that sense of duty. Like I said before, honor, courage, commitment to finish your job. That you started when you enlisted. So that's being a veteran. That's what I think.
So I got to see a lot of aircraft before they were actually implemented into service. So an example would be the stealth bomber. That stealth bomber that didn't exist flew over us. and did a low flyby while we were out there training.
My deployment down to Panama during the buildup of the U.S. forces in Panama prior to the Manuel Noriega removal operation, I saw what for me and what tons of other veterans see when they travel overseas is that regardless of what kind of wealth exists in a country that's not like ours, the degree of poverty that those countries and that I saw in Panama, the degree of poverty as opposed to what we refer to as poverty here is phenomenally greater.
I was based with supply. I got drafted. I was with the Air Wing. I worked base supply most of the time. And I had very good time scenery-wise. I got to see a lot of country. I was lucky enough that I was not directly in contact with any major combat, other than we took in a few mortars and rocket rounds occasionally in Vietnam.
An example would be, I worked in a combat operations center controlling aircraft. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, it was pretty slow, and it happened to be National Talk Like a Pirate Day, right? So because we were all so incredibly bored, our watch officer said, okay, for the rest of the night, everybody's gonna talk in pirate. Now that seems really, really lame, but that is the evolution of boredom. But of course, that same night, we had an unidentified aircraft attempt to come over the border from a country that wasn't supposed to be involved. And obviously, National Talk Like a Pirate Night went away really, really quickly. And so just in a moment, things can change, and it escalated very, very quickly. Luckily, it didn't turn into a major incident.
I don't have a lot of stories to share, but one that sticks in my head is when we flew into Kuwait, when we deployed to Iraq. We stepped off the plane and it was 130 degrees, and if you ever opened an oven when you were making cookies and stood over that, that's what it felt like, but it never went away. They just put us by a bunch of water and told us to acclimate for like an hour and get used to the heat, and it took all of that, that's for sure.
There was one time when we were running up north to Mosul, and all of a sudden the truck just stopped. And you know, in the record, we were in one of the vehicles that had the least amount of armor. Fortunately, we were able to get it fixed relatively quickly. You know, and the other soldiers in the unit, once we told them we had an issue, they brought 2 trucks to kind of provide protection so that we could get out and we could fix our truck. Ended up being just, you know, one of the little airline splices that come loose.
About the only story is that Nellis Air Force Base was the home base for the U.S. Thunderbirds, and I got to know few of the pilots, but mainly the ground crew came into the office and stuff.
Basically, when I was a Vietnam Veterans reunions, I went to a lot of them, and there was the 2 Medal of Honor winners, John Kerry and Sammy Davis Jr. I was a sniper in the 101st Airborne Division in I Corps, which is the northern part of Vietnam. And I volunteered for that because they went down the line and there was this country kid that said, yeah, I'll be a sniper. Now everybody wants to be a sniper, but yeah, back then nobody did.
Most interesting probably experience I had was I was on duty the day that Persian Gulf War I started. I worked in what they call command and control, so I decoded the message that basically told us we were at war. So that was a pretty dramatic day.
I broke my toes on my left foot in basic training, and I stayed with my platoon, and I graduated with my platoon. And you know, other than that, my deployment inside the United States was just like going to a job every day, 8 hours, and going back to your barracks.